of the uprising. So the main cause of the failure of the uprising are, so first failure was the uprising could not cover the entire country or the all groups of classes of Indian society. Actually, no more than 1% of the chiefs of the country joined of the uprising. So there were less of commanders, less of chiefs who joined this uprising. So they didn't cover the whole of the country. The uprising did not extend to the South India and most of the eastern western parts of India, since these areas were repeatedly repelled earlier. So these areas never got part into this uprising. Most of the area didn't got extended into the south, eastern and western parts. Except of the disposed and discontented zamindar and the upper middle class were not in favor of the rebels. So this uprising was containing some of the zamindars, but not the upper and the middle classes were in this favor. So the modern educated Indians were also critical of the rebels, and they were repelled by the rebels' appeal to superstitions. So there were many of the people who were learned, who were known, they were learned and they were modernly educated, but they didn't take off the type of appeals for this uprising. They did not accept to come in this uprising. They also opposed this rebels' regressive social attitude. Not only they just didn't participate in this uprising, but also they just demotivated them to just not doing this uprising. Although the rebels put up the brave front, yet their sources could not be matched the sources of the company. So, of course, the source of the company was big. There were more kind of weapons, there were more kind of things which can protect themselves and their families. There were more kind of secret spies they have, trustable peoples, and unfortunately, the uprising didn't contain those kind of things, those resources which the big company had. So what happened, the British army was very well organized and a modern techniques of welfare. So of course the army was modern, they were well organized. They knew what to do in which situation, how to just control over the people if there is a war. So they were well organized, but if we got just the opposite of the uprising, they were not as well organized as the company was. The rebels lacked proper leadership. The leaders of the uprising fought of their own personal gains, not for the whole country. Though the sepoys were selfless and brave, yet they were ill-disciplined and poorly organized. Though, the rebels, the uprising leaders, the uprising was containing lack of leadership. The leadership was lacking, and the leaders of the uprising fought for the not for the country, for their own area, the personal gains, not for the whole of the country. They didn't want the whole country to be independent, but their own personal areas. So those sepoys, though they were very powerful, though they were very much self-protected, but they actually became little ill, disorganized or disciplined and poorly organized. The rebels lacked experience, ideology, coordination and management. They had no idea of capturing states, so they were soon recaptured by the British. The rebels had little understanding of colonialism. So, of course, this happened very sudden. So they didn't have any sort of experience as the Britishers had. They lacked the experience. They lacked the ideology, the coordination of the people. How to just coordinate with each other and how to be ideal for each other. How to manage themselves and to manage others. They didn't made that thing. and they also had no idea to protecting and capturing states. So they were soon recaptured, and the rebels had little understanding of colonialism. Little or no understanding of colonialism. So there were also some consequences, as they were failures of uprising, there were consequences of uprising. So, the consequences of the uprising. The British brought about many changes in the administrative setup once they regained the control over the Indian provinces. So, the uprising, which was lead, and it was like one of the most failures, and after that, the British overcome and just regained the India again. And then they set up a new administrative setup, which actually was passed in 1858. So the Act 1858 was passed. The powers of the East India Company were transferred to British crowns. Under the Act 1858, the government was to be controlled by the Governor General. Now, he also is given the title of Viceroy or Crown of the Personal Representative. The Indian Council Act of 1861 enlarged the Governor General's Council. The British had to reserve their policy towards the princely states after uprising of 1857. After 1858, the Indian Army was carefully reorganized and prevent reoccurrence of the uprising. As you can see, that there were acts going on past among of the East India Company, but as to show people that we are doing stuff for you, and to make people understand that we are not going to make the mistakes which we have done. But in the internal phases, they are again bringing the army back, they are making themselves strong, and they are leading again to be the Britishers which they were. So India was divided by Britisher into provinces and administrative provinces, three of which were Bengal, Madras, Bombay. Bengal, Madras is now Chennai, and Bombay, Mumbai. We termed as the presidencies. So the uprising of 1857 clearly indicated their might, strength, determination of Indian people. So as they got a very much example of Indian strength, and people, if they get triggered, they can just go and just throw off the Britishers out of the India. So not to get like this protest in the future, they were showing off the people that we are doing things, but internally they were building up their own strategy to just not letting people get into their provinces or just rule over them. So in short, they were the outer cost of the Britishers were good, but internally they were evil for the people. So the nature of the uprising. What was the nature of the uprising? As far as the nature of the uprising of AD 1857 is concerned, there has been a divergent views among the historians. There are two different opinions about its nature. The British historians like Charles Ball, John K. Malson, etc. maintain that the uprising of AD 1857 was a mutiny of the misguided sepoys. It was fomented by some disgruntled rulers and zamindars. Actually, no more than 1% of the rulers India joined the uprising. Governor and General Lord Canning remarked that these rulers and chiefs acted as the breakwaters. To what the storm which would have otherwise swept us in the great wave. Dr. R.C. Alexander also did not find any trace of nationalist spirit in it. The modern educated Indians did not support the uprising as they mistakenly believed that the British rule would lead to modernization. However, it cannot be remarked that the educated Indians were faithful to the British regime. It clearly means the people of India at that time, the modern people and the educated people felt that the British may lead India to a modern India, and people made to a modernization. India could be more like a modern country, a very developed country. As per independence, they thought if we live together, we can do the stuffs. But actually, it was not the case, and people of India were suffering. As a modern educated people get some of the facilities which the lower level did not get. So they just the lower level did not agree to the modern educated Indians, and that's why today we got independence. That's one of the reason. But also the modern educated people actually think that if we support the Britishers, or if we just go for a mutual decision not to support the British or neither the Indian uprising, we will be in the safe side. Our families, our future will be in a bright side. That was the reason they were not going into uprising, and mistakenly they also thought that or believed that the rule of Britishers may lead India into a bright future, which was not it. So Indians were fearful to the British regime. They also thought if we just protest against the British are as per little stronger than Indians, so they might take away their jobs, and how will their future will be like stable, or their future will be good, their family will be wealthy for living. That was one of the beliefs in that modern educated Indians. On the other hand, Indian nationalist V.D. Savarkar and other historians remarked it was the India's first war of independence. Dr. S.B. Chowdhury opined that the uprising had a national character. In fact, the Great Uprising of 1857 was the first war of independence of India against the oppressive, exploitative colonial rule. It was succeeded into sowing the seeds of India. Nationalism, it served as source of inspirational future and generation. So though there are many historians who believe that this great uprising would have brought an end to this British colonial rule if there was suppression of uprising or any sort of a failures. So it would have just end of this British colonial rule. This rule have been just ended over in 1857 or 8, and we could have got independence in those years. But still, it's good. And for that suppression of the uprising and failures, we got independence almost after a century. So this was the video, and I really hope you liked the video and understood that what actually was the great uprising of 1857. I'll meet in the next video with another topic. Thanks for watching.